So I have an article here from Mediaite that I want to show all of you. This is about Democratic strategists realizing the obvious, that Democrats are going to get killed in the midterms. So let's go ahead and take a look here. Headline is, Democratic strategists speak out ahead of midterms. We're going to get slaughtered in November. So let me give you the specifics of the article here. They say, worried about not only losing a majority in the House, but also in the Senate, top strategists spoke of the issues Democrats face in convincing Americans to turn out and vote for them in the fall. Bill Galston, who advised former President Bill Clinton, okay, you're going to see why this article's a little off, said Biden's approval numbers can only go so high right now. Quote, my hypothesis is that unless and until inflation comes down appreciably, that there's going to be a ceiling on his job approval that's a lot lower than the White House wants it to be, Galston said. Gallup senior editor Jeff Jones concurred. Quote, high gas prices are one of the biggest anchors on presidential approval, Jones said. Biden's approval rating is hovering at around 40%. The Real Clear Politics average shows 41% approve of Biden's job performance while 53.8% disapprove. The Biden administration has repeatedly attempted to attribute pain at the pump to Vladimir Putin's war on Ukraine. There was a consensus among experts that the message is not helping the president with voters. Quote, I'm not shocked at all by the numbers because they look exactly what normal looks like, said Jim Kessler, who is executive VP for policy at the think tank Third Way. These are the most corporate of the corporate Democrats. Quote, the question is, given a lot of good news in the country, the jobs numbers, the businesses opening, the masks are off, the Russians are in full panic, America is astride the top of the world. Can we do better? Can we do better than normal? And I think the disappointment right now is we're not. One strategist, who was not named, attempted to stamp out any hope Democrats will be able to fend off Republicans at the polls later this year. Quote, it's bad. A person only described as a Democratic strategist said, you have an energy crisis that's paralyzing, and inflation is at a 40-year high, and we're heading into a recession. The problem is simple. The American people have lost confidence in him. Everyone needs to come to terms with the reality that we're going to get slaughtered in November, the Democratic strategist added. That's a fact. Polling has gotten worse, not better. It's indicative of the fact that people have lost confidence in his leadership. There's nothing they're going to be able to do. Okay, that last line is one of the biggest problems in this article. There's nothing they're going to be able to do, meaning the Democrats are doomed no matter what, as if it's written in the laws of nature and you can't actually do policy changes that would improve your chances. So this is an article where on the overall point, they're mostly correct, except for that last line I just talked about. But in the specifics, they're actually way off. So look at what they say the main problems are. They talk about, well, inflation is the main problem and high gas prices are the main problem. And so unless you get those under control, you're screwed. Now, here's why that's not correct. Let's say inflation gets under control. Let's say the high gas prices get under control. Let's say those numbers actually totally flip and they're just flat good. You have very, very minimal inflation. You have gas prices that get down to, I don't know, let's say $2.10 a gallon. Let's go nuts, okay? Even in that situation, he's not going to get a very large bump. Maybe he'll get a 2-3 point bump or something like that. So what they're saying is, hey, things are bad, but if we return to the status quo, then it'll look good for you. That's the gist of the argument. And of course, that last line also contradicts that because the last line is like, well, there's nothing they can do at all. So here's the reality. Again, this is Third Way we're talking about here. They are the most corporate of the corporate Democrats. They're funded by every giant corporation. That's a rotten organization to its core. The whole point of Third Way is to make Democrats more like Republicans. Here's the reality, and not a single word is in this article about this. If you want to have a chance in the midterms, and if you want to genuinely improve the lives of the American people, do good policy that would meet those goals and get us to those ends. So in other words, some provisions of Build Back Better have to pass. If you do universal pre-K, if you do elder care, if you extend the child tax credit, if you lower prescription drug prices, those are things that would materially improve lives, and people would be like, oh, okay, well, now I like the president more. You'd get a much bigger bump from getting some of those policies through than you would if you just get inflation under control and get gas prices under control. By the way, I'm not downplaying that Of course it would be a good thing if you get inflation under control, you get gas prices under control. But even when we had decent inflation numbers, and even when we had gas prices that were under control, I mean, under Trump, we had better inflation numbers, and we had gas that was more under control with the price. Does that mean it's like, oh, well, that's a recipe for victory? No, Trump lost in 2020. So that's obviously not the silver bullet. That just gets us back to the status quo, and that's the problem with these people. They're status quo humpers. Just give me status quo, and then you'll have your best chance. No, we need to go way above and beyond the status quo. We need to do big, bold, universal programs. Biden could eliminate student loan debt with the stroke of a pen. That would be huge. That would definitely give him at least a 5-point bump. He could legalize marijuana with the stroke of a pen and free all the nonviolent drug offenders. That also would give him a bump in the polls. That's a 70% issue in the country. So that's what annoys me about this article. They're correct on the main point. Democrats are going to get slaughtered in the midterms. At this point, it's almost empirical now because they're not going to do any of the things that they need to do in order to win. So they're right on the main point. They're going to get slaughtered. They're totally wrong in the specifics of that diagnosis because all they talk about is inflation and all they talk about is high gas prices. Even if we got those things under control, that's not enough. That's not enough. There's a reason why FDR was reelected. He won 4 times. He won the presidency. 4. They came up with term limits in order to try to make it so the Republicans had a chance because they were like, we'll never beat these people. They're too good. Americans got a tiny little taste of social democracy and they lost it. And they were like, this is all we want. So this is a guy who was dealt a much more difficult hand. I mean, granted, Biden had a pandemic. I'm not downplaying that. But homeboy was there during the Great Depression. And he turned lemons into lemonade. He really did. Not to say everything he did was good. Of course not. He's a Japanese internment. Horrendous. But in terms of the economic approach, he turned lemons into lemonade. Biden is sitting on his hands doing Dickie McGee's acts to try to revolutionize the country, reform the country in a serious way with bold universal programs. For the love of God, it doesn't take much, dog. It doesn't take much. Universal pre-K, elder care, extended child tax credit, lowering prescription drug prices. Obviously a universal healthcare system would be amazing. Some sort of recurring check, $1,000 a month, $2,000 a month would be amazing. Eliminating student loan debt, legalizing marijuana. There's so many policies that they could do. If they just go big on like 1 or 2 of them and then brag about it till the end of time and the programs work, right? That's how you have a chance. But look, what I'm saying is so not in the conversation in the Oval Office that it's laughable. People would look at me like I'm insane for saying these things in the White House. Because all the conventional wisdom is everything you just heard there. The conventional wisdom is you were too big and too bold, and so you got to slow down and do nothing, and then maybe that'll help you because you gave in to the left and you're just representing AOC and the crazy types, and you're too ambitious. I'm serious. That's some of the conventional wisdom in the White House. And the other conventional wisdom is, like you just heard here, just get inflation under control. Just get the gas prices under control. So they're just playing whack-a-mole to try to get back to the status quo, which already sucked balls. So, pathetic. But it's true that even the third way people know they're going to get slaughtered in the midterms. It's just they misdiagnose the reasons as to why, and of course they don't understand the solutions at all because they're corporate hacks in their own respect. But if they actually mustered the will and the ability to do those things I just said, some of those policies, they'd have a fighting chance. They absolutely would. But I don't trust that they're going to do it. And so they're resigned to sort of just losing or, nope, that's it. They're just resigned to losing. So there you have it. Pathetic, terrible. It's the consensus now because it's real as a heart attack. But Hail Mary pastime, and it doesn't look like there's any hope of that happening. If you want to see me and Crystal Ball interview legends like Noam Chomsky, Cornel West, and more, subscribe to Crystal Kyle and Friends on Substack. $5 a month gets you the video version a day early. Remember, we take 0 ad dollars for this podcast. Or you can sign up on Substack for free and get the audio version a day later. Link in the video description box below.